Hi guys, Tony from Dad Built Down Under. Hey listen, I'm gonna just do some adjustments to this suspension on the Corvette. I put SuperPro Bushings in quite a while ago and never really checked the height, the ride height and where it's sitting. And I'm having a bit of a look, and I was sort of halfway through starting to fabricate up the exhaust underneath, and I thought, hang on a minute, I probably should check the ride height. And what's made it stand out is I've put the hood back on so that we can sort of mark it and get ready to cut and shut it. So the issue now is it's sitting too high. It is higher than Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg in a session, I am telling you. So it sort of indicates to me that I stuffed up somewhere, and I did. So what I did is I went through and torqued up the suspension while it was hanging instead of under load, because when I put it in there, they had no engine in the engine bay. It was out. I was planning the 434 install, and I wanted to button up the suspension, and got sidetracked and never got it sitting down on all fours when I torqued it all up. So at the moment I can see that it's way too high, and you can probably see in the background that is sitting way too high. Putting the engine in there, I thought should bring it down a little bit, but it hasn't. So it's torqued up it was torqued up. It's now, I've loosened the top control arm and the bottom control arm in the front, and I've loosened the dog bones where they mount onto the chassis in the rear. So what I'm going to do today is I need to replace the bushings under the spring, the rear spring anyway. The ones that were in there have literally just fallen apart while this car's been sitting on the hoist. So I'm going to replace the ones that are in there. They're all split, and I'll do that first, and we'll get into loosening up the rest of the suspension with the wheels on, in a hope that it will come down. Now I can get to the dog bones and the rear strut rod with the wheels on. So we're just going to make sure that we go through that process and just see if it's where it's binding, or whether it's just because I torqued it up while it had no load on it, which is rather important. So bear with us while we run through all that. It's Friday afternoon, kids are still at school, and I thought I'd get a head start on it and at least get the spring mount rubbers done today. The weekend is looking like it's all suspension on this car, and getting it sitting down to where it's supposed to, so that we can get back to the exhaust. So let's just go over the front and rear, and we'll have a bit of a look. So as you can see, it's sitting too high in the rear and sitting too high in the front. So all the control arms are loose. I've loosened off all the bolts on the bottom control arm and the top control arm, but it hasn't dropped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way backwards on it and see if it comes down under its own weight, given that it's got the engine in there now. The dog bones, well, I can get to all that from here, and I've found the best way is to take off the shock. You can see the split in that rubber, and the other side's the same. So that's just sitting on the hoist that's done that. So I'm going to do that first, and then after I'm doing that, we'll run through and we'll loosen up all these dog bones and just see if it drops. At least if it sags in the arse like a dog rubbing its bum on the ground, well then we know that that's going to solve it for the rear. I think it probably will solve it for the rear, but I don't know about the front. I'm just going to have to work my way backwards on that one, and I'd like to have it under load So at the moment with it all loose in the front, it should drop, but it hasn't, so it's going to need a little bit more work. So anyway, I'll need to get that sorted, so let's get cracking. Righto, you've probably seen this 1,000 times, these rear transverse springs on the Corvette. You can just see the level of detail I've gone to here just rebuilding this. It's only an 84, and it's all been painted, and yeah, it looks very tidy, right? So it's probably overkill for an 84 in any other part of the country but Australia, but here, this is how we roll. We just do things too far, really, to be honest. So anyway, I'm going to pull these rubbers out. As I said, they're rooted, they're split, and the one at the top there, I don't know if that one's split. Oh no, it's not split. Oh, there it is. So just going to pull the cotter pin out, split pin, and then we're going to take this nut off. We're going to put the jack up here and support underneath this metal plate up here. Just take the weight off, pull the pin out, take the nut off, and then let it down, and just do one side at a time. Lift it back up again and line it back up. These are the stock ride hide bolts. So I'm not looking for anything lower than stock ride height, because our roads here are shit. So yeah, I don't want it to bottom out. So I need to get it down though, because obviously the car's sitting too high, and for that exhaust to work I need to make sure that it is 100mm off the deck under load, because the transport department will fine me excessively for no real reason other than revenue raising, right? If it's underneath that. And the reason I know is because I had an 81 Corvette before, many moons ago, and got pinged for the exhaust. It was too low, and I didn't realise it was too low. So he put the wheel under that they test with, and it hit the collector at the front. And because it just hit it, he goes, nah, you need to get that fixed, and he defected the vehicle. So yeah, I called him a CUNT underneath my breath, and then obviously took it into the exhaust shop and got it sorted out. So that's why I've sort of pulled the pin on the exhaust fab right now, because I need to get this sitting back down where it's supposed to be, and then we can go from there. So as I said, we're just going to pull the pins out, drop the nuts off, pull the rubbers off top and bottom, and do one side at a time. Once that's done, then I'm going to get into here. I'm going to take this, loosen up the top shock mount up there, loosen the bottom one, I might loosen the dog bones and just see if it drops. I've got a funny feeling it may drop, because I've loosened the inner ones already, but I haven't loosened these outer ones on the knuckles. So I'm figuring if I do those and it drops, that's the issue. But then it sort of tells me, well, okay, what's going on with I need to make sure that everything's not rigid and it's not binding up. So the rubbers, the SuperPro Bushings themselves are fantastic. They're better than the ones that I had in there. I put a set of energy suspension ones in, and a mixture of those and the Prothane brand, and honestly they're just crap. I really don't know how you blokes put them in there, but they failed just sitting up here on the hoist. Pretty much like these rubbers, this car hasn't seen any road time and these are split already. So, you know, just sitting up here, it's sat here for 8 years, it hasn't been on the road, and they're perished. So yeah, they could have used a little bit of lube, a little bit of grease. They had grease on them when they were installed. Yeah, but I'm going to check the SuperPro ones out, because I need to make sure that the mounts are coming down on the crush tube and not on the bush. If they're coming down on the bush, I need to probably look at some sort of spacer, probably a washer between the crush tube and the mount, so that we can get the mount to pull down on the crush tube and not the mount and not the rubber. So anyway, let's get cranking on that. Righto, got the split pin out and the nut off. I started loosening it off before I didn't put the jack in there straight away. I took the pin out, started undoing the nut first, and then once I got it down, probably, you know, 1/4 of an inch, 10 mil, I put the jack under there just to take the weight of the spring so I don't fling down and, you know, cause an issue. And then the rubber, the bottom rubber didn't want to come out, and you can see that it's just totally perished, man. And this car's seen no road time. So there's the original one there, or the one that I put in 8 years ago. These are the new ones from, I got these from Classic Industries while the wife and I were in the US. So you can see that's the ones that are there. That's the ones that we're pulling out, and you can see that they're split. So obviously they need a bit of lube. I'm going to lube them up with some grease before I put them back in there, but I'll obviously start at the top, put the top one in, put the bolt through, and then it's just reverse. You've probably done it about 1,000 times anyway, so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to do the same to the other side, and then we'll put that all back together, get that torque back up to where it's supposed to be, and because it's sitting on all fours, and then I'm going to loosen those dog bones, as I said. So alright, we'll see you on the flip side. Righto, we have put the bushings back in. See there, bang bang bang. Now I haven't torqued them up yet because it says 70 pounds, right? And 70 ooga-doogas, from memory when I did them the first time, puts the nut up here and the hole's here. So I'll have to have another look at that, because if I go too much more on that, then how are you supposed to lock the bloody nut in with the split pin? Anyway, moving on, I digress. That one's done. This one is done. Just see that lithium grease in there. I just greased her up, man, like there's no tomorrow. Now I've loosened off this one, the dog bone up the top, and the center adjustment nut right there, all 21mm sockets. So now it's still sitting up high, but what the plan stand is to put the hoist down and rock it backwards and forwards a little bit and just see if it settles. And then once it settles, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll come back underneath and torque it up.
Just waiting for me.
I'm hoping, fingers crossed that that's going to be the solution here. Front one's going to be a little bit more dicking around, so I might have to pull that apart completely. But give me a look here and I'll come back to you. I'll put the hoist down, I need 2 hands for that. Righto, so I've got it down on all fours. Well, the hoist, that is. Check out the check out that wheel there. That's because I've loosened off those camber bolts, and that needs adjustment anyway. Don't forget, this car's never had an alignment since I've done all the suspension work, so it's out, but I can see that it's out. I know that it's out. And at the moment, what I wanted to do was get a bit of a measurement so you can see what I'm banging on about. So bear with me while I get this tape measure sorted. Right. So that's down on the deck. So we're looking, sorry guys for that, we're looking at just over 28.5 inches. Now, I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be 26 inches between ground height and the center of that wheel arch. So the other side's the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to rock that back and forth, stomp on it a little bit, and see if it gives in, because everything's loose under there. So yeah, let's have a little bit of a crack at that. You can see that there. Righto, day 2, Saturday morning. I spent a few hours yesterday trying to fix up the bushings on the Corvette. So what's going on is SuperPro bushings, I think, are superior, but they have their issues, and I thought that most of my issue with the suspension being too high was the fact that I torqued it while it was hanging, the suspension was hanging and not under load. And yes, while I did do that, after pulling the dog burns out yesterday, I noticed that, especially on the knuckle end, it showed that that washer there was indented in the bushing. So I actually rang SuperPro in Brisbane, because they're an Aussie company owned by Fulcrum, and what I asked them is, I said, look, the washers, I need to use the washers need to be there, they need to pull in on the crush tube, but the washers, when I add the 2 washers on the outside of the dog bones up on the chassis mount, it's too wide, it won't go into the mount. So what I did is I found that the bushing where it mounts to the chassis was a little bit wider than the crush tube. So I asked the tech guy there, I said, look, if I trim the bushing to be the same width as the length of the crush tube, would that hurt anything? And he said, no, it'd be fine doing that. So he said, but just be careful, don't make it too much. Don't make the bushing too thin that the crush tube is actually longer than the whole assembly. So I spent a little bit of time on the belt sander yesterday, because I've got a sanding disc on there, trimming from the crush tube out to make sure that was flat, and I got all that right, cleaned it all up and put the bushings back in, but I still noticed a little bit of resistance there. So when I put that in there and I put the bolts on, so I'm going to do this other side, the left hand side, today, and pull it out and have another look and see if I can get the dog bones to move at their torque setting. So I'm going to try and put the bolt in and get it torqued up to its setting and see how stiff that is, and then we might look at another game plan. I might have to look at the supplied washers that come with the SuperPro kit are 2 millimeters in width, and the issue with that is that they're too wide. By the time you add those two to the bushing and the dog bone assembly, it doesn't fit in the housing. I tried widening the housing yesterday, and that's just not going to work. I tried a whole heap of things, and in the end I ended up trimming the bushings. So I'm going to do the same thing, mirror what I've done on this on the right hand side. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to undo the spring mount again, just take the cotter pin out and drop the nut down. I've found that I can move the knuckle while this is not under load. These should be fairly loose. I'll take the shock off. I took the shock off on the other side a because I found that you can get to this one here, you can pull that right off with the shock. I didn't undo the top mount, just did the bottom mount. So I'm gonna do all that this morning. It is nearly 6 o'clock in the morning. The pearl of days, as we're coming into, well, we're in spring, so the sun's up earlier as we get to summer. So what I'm going to do is I'll jack this up, rip the wheel off, and then I'll get you back in here to have a bit of a look. That's my bonnet support. It holds the bonnet up. So that's another issue. See that width there? That's way too high. So I need to come back to those and revisit those ones in there. I pretty much think that the problem is that that mount is pulling in on the bushing and not the crush tube. So I think that just washers will solve the issue there. And I might have to push the mount out that way, because over time it's pulled in and it's a little bit narrower than it should be. So I think that's the solution there. This back part is biting me in the arse though, and it's starting to annoy me, because it should travel down and it should be fine. I mean, if you look at these energy suspension ones, or fucking, I think they're propane. No, they're energy suspension. These ones that I took out, so I put these in, these were brand new. So 2 of those, that's the two piece for the dog bones, right? And what I don't like about these is the grease escapes through here. So if you've greased up in the center on the tube, which is where they're supposed to pivot, and these are as hard as the fucking rock. They're shit. They're not going back in there. I put them in there initially thinking that was the best route, and it's obviously the cheapest one, and it's what everyone does, because they go, oh, we don't have a problem with them. But these were in the car for 6 years, not even 6 years, and it didn't do anything. It just, that's where it sat. It sat on that hoist for 8. So the issue then is these are dried up. They're hard. They're not pliable. The SuperPro ones are. So there's you know, and the other one started to perish. So let's rip this wheel off and we'll have another look at it, and I'll show you what I mean. I'll show you the trim bushing around the dog bone as well, because I'm going to redo all that this morning as well. So let's do that. All right, well, let's get cracking. Righto, so got the car jacked up, wheel off. Let me get you in underneath here and I'll show you what I've done. Alright, so I have dropped the shock off, bottom mount only, still sitting in there. It's just enough to pull it out, takes the load off the knuckle. I've backed the spring off, not all the way off. There's still enough to get a jack underneath and just hold it up at the right height there. I've pulled the you can see there's the factory washer there, so that stays in there obviously, and the bolt in and out. So I've taken the bottom dog bone off, and I want to show you what is going on. So I'm going to say that, yeah, I probably should have adjusted this when I was sitting at ride height, but now I'm hoping that you're going to be able to see. Can you see? So the lip here is from, I'm just reaching behind me here. So that's the factory washer, right? You can see the indentation there, it's flat on 2 sides. Now, you can see it, indentation there and indentation there. So, that bush is binding because the washer is hitting against that to pull to the crush tube. Is it hitting the crush tube? Yep, it is, because it's flat on there. but it's binding. So it's pulled down and it bound down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, on the belt sander, because I've got a rotating disc, is I'm just going to trim from the center out on all of these. This side is the same. So you can see, I'll just get that. You can see there the indentation. So you've got indentation here and here. So that tells me that when it's all fastened down, it's definitely pulling against the washer, which is binding up the dog bones. So now I've got to find a solution to stopping that from happening. And you can see that the bush here has got a slight lip here. So by trimming that down a little bit so that it only needs to be slightly lower than that crush tube, and then it should be right. The fronts are the same. Well, not really. They've been pulling down across the whole thing there. So I'd really like to run a washer in there. They do supply the washers, but the washers are 2 millimeters thick, and by the time you add on, if you look at it that way, by the time you add on 2 millimeters here and 2 millimeters here, you end up 47 mil or something like that, and it doesn't fit in here, and it's no way in hell's are going to fit. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that the housing is pulling down on the crush tube, not the bushing. That's where we're getting the binding. So let me play around with that and see if I can get it. I'm going to put this one into this housing after I trim it, and I'm going to pull this down to the torque spec and then see how loose it is. And if it's relatively loose, I'll be happy with that. And then I'm going to go back to the other side and do the same thing. Like I've done that side, but it was hard to get in and out. So now that I've had one run at it on that side, I'll come over here and see, just do a bit of testing on how loose these are under torque, and we'll go from there. Hey, just a bit of a tip too, you know, ever pull those nuts out of there, out of that channel, you know that there's a hole in the chassis just here. So what I do is I undo the nut and bolt assembly and get it so that the nut is the same length as the bolt, and then I run a piece of tape up in there before I take the nut off, and that way the nut doesn't go down into the bloody hole and end up down there. So and yeah, they're flanged, and if you put a spanner on them, they won't move, but they do end up down there, and the hole is there to obviously relieve the end of the bolt coming through, but the nut is too close to the hole. So what I do is I always just tape it up, and that way it doesn't happen. So when I go to put it in there now, I know that when I put the loose nut in there to pull the bolt into it, I know that I'm not going to lose it down the channel. So a little bit of a tip. Anyway, we'll get back to what we're doing here. Okay, to test the theory, I thought I'd so I've trimmed all these off, you can see. So you can see that the crush tube's a little bit shiny. That's obviously where the side of the sander come in, but I've worked away really quick. So the way I sand is I don't leave it on there because it causes heat and it'll melt the bushing, right? So you can see that there's a low spot there. That darker piece is a low spot. So I've gone through and just trimmed from the crush tube out and trimmed down so that we're good to go. And what I did is I put it in the vise here, and I put down the nut down there, and I put the washer there, the factory washers. You can see the factory washers there, and the bolt, and I've torqued that to 66 pounds. Okay, so let's have a look. This may move. Oh, hang on. Alright, so that's 66. So So what we're looking for is we're looking for the fastener to push on the crush tube, not the bloody bushing, and I can still move the bushing. And that's dry, that's with no lube. So I think we're getting there. Because it should pivot. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So once I apply a lube to that, that should come up a little bit more. I'm going to test the other end too, but this was my test to see whether I could get the torque on the bolt, which I can, and what that means is it's pulling down on the crush tube, not on the bush. So we'll keep traveling on. Righto, just to prove a point, I went and took the whole assembly apart and lubed up the bushing. So what I'm trying to simulate here with these two washers is it being in the housing, and the housing pushing against the crush tube. On the knuckle side, which is the big side here, the washer will fit against there, and that washer stops it binding on the aluminium housing on that. But by putting these washers in here, it simulates it being in the housing. So, and you can see it's loose. Beautiful. Okay, so I've put the bottom one back in. You can't see it from here, but I've put the back one back in and haven't torqued it up yet. All the torquing's going to be done when I drop it down, put the wheel back on, so I can do that then. I've just pulled the top one out, and this is the smaller end here is the chassis mount, and I don't know if you can see that it's flatter there, but there's a lip here. So I'm going to grind those down with the clapper wheel. This one is, no, that's on the crush tube, but I'll run over it just to trim it off a little bit. The other end though, which is the knuckle end, the crush washer is higher than the bushing, and then when I flip it over, it's the same on that side. So the crush washer is what we need to pull down onto, and in that knuckle. So this should be right. So what I'm going to do is as I said, I'll sand that end. I won't sand this end. And then what we'll do is I'll test the theory again with the nut and bolt in the vise. And if it does up to 67 pounds, even though the knuckle end is 140, or around, it ranges, I'm stabbing in the middle. So what I'm going to do is, it says 55 to 70 on this one, on these two ones, on the inner one, and then down on the knuckle it says 125 to 154 or something. So I'm going to stab in the middle and go 140. So I'm going to go 140 here, I'm going to go 65 here, and we'll be happy at that. So we already know that when we put this in the vise and we pulled this bolt down to 65 pounds, there was still movement in the arm. It was tight, it locked down on the bolt and the crush tube, but the bushing could still do its job. So I'll do the same thing on this side, and then we're going to have a look at these camber bolts as well. So these ones probably don't need to be as loose, so to speak, because I mean they've still got to travel, but their job is to keep everything rigid. So I'm going to pull them out and just have a quick look at the crush tube situation, and then we'll go from there, because you can't really pull this down anyway. It's all hard aluminium, so you can't, I mean, it's not as if it's going to compress. I'm pretty sure, yeah, well, I mean, it's not going to make no bugger all difference, and there's no washers in there. And you can see there's no washers in there, that's just the way they roll. So we might be, well, I'll check it while I'm here, and then I'm gonna put it all back together, and I'm gonna sit here with the jack and just jack this suspension up and down and just see what happens. It should move, there should be travel, and then what we'll do is put the wheel back on, drop it down, and then once I'm happy with it, I'll torque it up once it's sitting on the deck. So the deck being obviously the lift, the hoist. So that's where we're up to. So I'm going to keep cracking on with that, but it looks like the bushing was just a little bit wider than the crush sleeve, the crush tube. That was part of it, and that's the issue. That's why it was binding. So we'll see. I mean, I want to get it so that it's not so high in the bum, and I need to drop it down a little bit because it needs to be about 27 inches from here to here, and at the moment it's bloody higher than Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson's after party. Anyway, getting back to it now, let's crack on. So to prove we're not barking up the wrong tree, this is the top control arm that we had in the last take, and you can see that I can move that basically with 2 fingers. There's no twisting movement, and there won't be because it's pulled down on the crush tube, and then the only movement will be in the bushing itself. But you can see that that is really, well, it's not loose, it's firm, but it means that the suspension is going to be able to move. Not that these dog bones move that much, but you know, it's better than the binding. This end is still binding. I've got to put it back on the sander and just trim up. One of the ends is not quite right. This is done up to 66 pounds. Now the torque setting here is irrelevant. The fact is that 66 pounds is a fair chunk of change, so it means that it's pulling down on the crush washer, not on the bush. And then if I undo that, I'll go back the other way, I'll show you why. Maybe I'm going to do this one-handed. There we go. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this off. I'm going to show you why this one's loose. Remember when I took it off, I showed you that one end was higher. So what we're looking at here is, let's have a look. We're looking at, so you can see that that crush tube is just a bee's dick longer or wider than the bushing, and the bushing's not rubbing, it's pulling down on the crush tube, which is what it's supposed to do. And when you have a look at the other side, it's the same. So that's why that's loose. So really, I mean, I'm no suspension engineer, but if SuperPro, instead of putting the big washers in here, just made the crush tubes a bee's dick longer than the actual bushing, I think that's half the problem solved. So I mean, I'd like to run the washers that they supplied, but I can't even get them in, so they're not going in. So I've got to rely on the crush tube to for the mount to pull down to the torque setting without crushing the bushing. So that's why that one was loose. This one's still a little bit tight, so I'll put him back on the sander and I'll have another crack at it, and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's the theory pretty much proved. So we'll just keep going with that, and I'll see you on the flip side. I tell you what, it's so I've been going since 5 o'clock. It's now 20 past 9. So we've had a good, well, including smokos, to go 9 o'clock. So we've been going for 4 hours, and what I've done is I've slowly worked my way through, trimming the bushes down. Now you got to do this with caution because some of it you can do with the cross tube in the dog bone, because it's only a minor trim, but at the end of the day the cross tube needs to be slightly longer than what the bush is wide. So at a couple of stages I've had to take the sleeve out, the cross tube out, and trim down the bush, and then put the sleeve back in, as well as checking it with some vernier calipers. So I've managed to do that, and I've managed to use the process that I was using before with the bolt and the two large washers, and the it torques down to 65 pound, and also allows me to move the dog bone. So what I've done is I have put top and bottom back in, and just done these nuts up pretty lefty loosey, so to speak. Okay, so this jack is sitting underneath that bottom strut rod, and we're gonna jack it up. So you got to remember that at the moment there's minimal bloody pressure from the spring, because I've got that sitting down right down to there. It's just to allow me to move it around, because while the spring's on there, the knuckle's hard to move. The shock mount is off, because that just adds to the whole process of being difficult. So I'll lower that down now, maybe. Okay, so you can see that the dog bones move. So I'm hoping that, let's check that up. You can see the dog bones doing their thing. Get the idea? So that's probably about as far as it'll go. And then I'll let it down again. Let's have a look. Okay, so you can see the bolt move then. You got to remember that that's just sitting there loose. It's not bloody torqued up. Righto. So next step is the strut rod, I think. And then what I'll do is tighten it up a little bit tighter than what it is, because it's a bit loose. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check this strut rod out. I don't think the issue's in there, because that's got sleeves in it. Well, not sleeves, it's got washers on it. And it's meant to move, obviously, so that you can do the alignment, because obviously where it is, it pushes this bottom rod out. So this can't be too loose. And I'm pretty much thinking that I may not do anything here. It may not be the issue. I think the issue was the dog bones, and the binding on those. So I think I've sort of addressed that. So let me have a bit of a play with this. So I'm going to pull this one out anyway and just have a quick look. And then what we're going to do is put it back together, firm it all up because it's all loose at the moment. Put the wheel back on and let it down on the wheel. I'll put the shock mount on too, obviously. And once it's sitting down and sitting firm, then we'll torque it up. And hopefully it would have dropped. Now the other. Righto guys, I've got the camber rod, strut rod. I call it a strut rod. I think that's what they call them on most of the Commodores and shit that I've owned over the years since I was a young'un. So I call it a strut rod. I think it's a camber bolt. It does the camber adjustment, obviously, so probably it's camber bolt, camber rod. So it's out, bam bam, no problem at all. It was loose up in the diff end, which it should be, because that's where you adjust it. It's got a offset bolt in it. Righto, so I've got it in the vise over here, and I've used the long bolt out of the bottom of the knuckle. I've got that out, and what I've done is I've put in here a washer which simulates the washer binding on the crush tube, then another washer, and because the thread ends here, I've put a crush tube in here, another washer and a nut. But the thing is that this crush tube is pushing down on that washer, and this washer is pushing down on the actual crush tube inside the bushing. I've done this up to 66 pounds just to test the theory, and my issue is not in that bush. Right, so now what we have to do is we have to have a look at the other end, and if it's tighter than a nun's nooner, then we know that that bushing needs trimming. So it's not about just pulling them out and running them across the belt sander and potentially flogging out the new bushes that you just got. It's about checking and just doing a bit of science on it, you know what I mean? Like, just got to test. Righto, that one off, that one off. Put them down there, flip him around. So there you can see the washer, boom. So that's going to push down on the crush tube. We need another washer on there to push on that crush tube, and you can see the thread here is longer than that, so obviously you can't get a nut all the way down there, so that's only a spacer, washer, nut. There's a bit of dicky thread on that one. It's alright. A couple of ooga doogas and it'll sort it out. Otherwise it'll make its own thread, right? That's how it works. Righto. So we're going to do this to 60 pounds to simulate some sort of load. And again, righto. Now, if this one's tight, this is an issue. No, it's not. It's firm. It's beautiful, actually. I'm not even going to touch it. So as I said, I didn't think it was the strut rod. I thought it was just the dog bones, and the dog bones are giving me the same thing. So, and you can see on the previous take that the dog bones are behaving themselves now, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Suspension's moving. So, going on that, this is going back in. I'm not even going to bother trimming it. I might push the crush tubes out and re-lube them while I've got them down to this point, but that's about it. So the next time you see this one, it'll be back on the car. So drop the tubes out, lube up inside, push the tube back in on both ends, and this puppy's going back in. All right, I think we've solved that issue. So there's definitely those dog bones. So let's keep going, let's keep cracking on, because I need to get this back together, and if I can get a start and pull one of the wheels off on the front today, I'll be a happy man, because it means I'm ahead. Sunday's supposed to be front suspension day, but if I can start it Saturday, well, that will be even betterer. And it looks like 10 o'clock I'm going to get there. So yep, all right, see you on the next take. Righto, we're going to get the strut rod in. You do the diff side first, and then you do the knuckle end. And it's a little bit difficult to get it into the knuckle end because it's a tight fit. So I've painted these knuckles in a nice paint. So what I've done is I've just got the file and filed off the inner machine faces on it, so that it's not getting bound up on any paint or anything that I've got on there. So let's go and put this last one in, eh? So washer, washer. Righto. Adjustment nut, adjustment bolt. that up. Let's go. Come on. Line everything up, eh? Alright. Well, two can play that game. Let's go here. Oh, shit, fuck. There we go. And then we do this side, push that washer back up in there. Where's that washer? Oh, there it is. Doesn't want to play the game. Okay. Right, we need a bit of persuasion. Ow. The washer on. Ah. We got that side in. Okay. And this one's a little bit tougher. So, I think it's rubber mallet time. Let me just grab that. I'll come back to you. Alright, starting to run out of battery power. Rubber mallet. I had to stop the take because I'm belting my head on these tyre things before, the holders, and opened up the top of my head a little bit. A little bit of claret there. So they shouldn't be that fucking tight. Well, shouldn't be that tight, man. Let me have a look at this. I'll get back to you. Righto, so I'm winning slowly. I ended up trimming a little bit of material off this bushing just to help to get it in the sleeve. It's quite tight in here, but it's only tight when you're trying to put this into the housing. When you put it in by itself, it's quite loose, so I didn't want to take too much material off it because the material on there has a purpose, right? So I've got the jack under here at the moment. You can see it is sitting underneath the shock now, and I've managed to get this up in here and tap it up. So that's about right there. Nope, don't want to play. Oh, you know it would be it'll be the jack. That's why I always use a rubber mallet, because imagine you hitting this with a steel mallet. Right, so it can't go anywhere because it's under pressure. Under pressure, like Freddie would say. So it's roughly lined up. We're going to get back under there and give that another tap, because I think the jack had it caught up. I've got to watch these bloody. No problem. You can see how tight it is, eh? Yeah, we're not there yet. There. What does it need? Needs a bit more that way. There we go. Get in there, you little hooah. Oh, look at that. Well, that was a bloody workout, I'm telling you. Now, you're probably thinking, well, should it be that tight? Yes and no. So, give that a little bit of persuasion. Get in there. Fucking little shit. I've got to edit that out, I suppose. Sometimes you just got to do what you just got to do, right? Okay, so that's on there. Righto. So from here, I'm just going to put this up to, so it's got a torque setting for these bolts. And that doesn't make sense, man, because the torque setting is way up here if you pushed it all the way up, but the hole for the castle nut is here. So to reach the thing, you've got to go past it. That's weird. Anyway, I'm going to have another look at that, because I'm calling bullshit on that. Anyway, we'll have another look at it, and finally got that on after a little bit of ooga-doogering and bashing and carrying on. And I've scuffed up me white painted strut rods, but anyway, shit happens, I suppose. Oh no, it's come up pretty good. It'll do, it'll do. I'm not going to be underneath it anyway while I'm driving, eh? Righto, we'll see you on the next one. Righto, now we're going to finalise the rear video, the rear suspension video here, and then I'm going to pick up straight away and start doing the front one. But I've put the left hand side back together, and we've I was going to pull the other side out again, but after just checking the suspension travel, I'm going to leave it alone because it's actually not too bad. So when I trimmed up the bushes yesterday and repacked everything, it seems to have helped. Now, has it changed the ride height? No, it has not. So it might have come down about ½ an inch, if that, but I don't think it has. Let's just have a bit of a look. I'm extending the tape measure here. And as you can see, it is, let's go 730 millimeters for the metric people, and 28 and whatever the hell that is in inches. It would be 1/4, 2. It would be 28 3/4 inch by the looks of that. Yeah, 1/4, half, yeah, 28. Alright, let's see what the other side is on the other side. I just had my daughter up here. She hopped in the car, and she weighs about the third of the weight that I do, and she was jumping up and down in there, and see, that's pretty fucking good actually. 730, this is 5 mil, 3 mil it is. 3 mil. 3 millimeters difference, higher, no, lower. It's 3 millimeters lower on this side. So, but the dog bones are doing what they're supposed to do. Everything's moving in there. All the strut rod and all the suspension and everything under there is doing what it's supposed to do. So, I don't know. I still reckon it's too high. But more importantly, it could be high, I suppose, but more importantly, it's the suspension's moving, and it wasn't moving before. It was all bound up like eating too much sugar shit. So, look, I'm thinking we might just leave it and see what happens, but we're definitely going to start the front, and we're going to start the front right now, but that's going to be another video. So, in a nutshell, we've gone around and we have we have taken all the dog bones out and the strut rod out. We've cleaned and inspected them. We have trimmed down the excess bushing with caution, and I checked that with SuperPro. They were okay that I did that. They said, yeah, do it, but just be careful because it's supposed to be the same. The bushing's supposed to be as wide as what the crush tube is long. So, and they must be spot on. So, and I've got one there that the crush tube is a little bit longer than the bushing, but that one seems to work really, really well. So I think the trick there is, if SuperPro are watching this, they won't be. Longer crush washers, that's what is needed. So, and I couldn't use all the washers. So all the washers that come in the kit, so these are the factory ones. No, I couldn't use those because they don't fit. And these are the factory ones, and you can see how bloody thick they are. And there's no way in the world you're going to get two of those up beside the dog bones. Not in those mounts anyway, so it's definitely a lot better. And as I said, oh, that's not torqued up either, so that's sitting at ride height with no torque setting, no torque on it. So now that it's sitting there like that, I'll get underneath and I'll torque everything up to where it's supposed to be, and I reckon we're just going to leave it at that. And we might, I might test it after I've torqued it up just to see if it's stiffened back up again, but I'm not expecting it to. I'm expecting it to be okay. Alright, we'll pick up on the next video, but if you like that, guys, make sure you subscribe. That's free, and like the video, make some comments. If I can share some information about the SuperPro bushes, I will. Definitely use them again. They're, as I said, all the way along this video, they are heaps better than the Prothane ones and the Energy suspension ones. I find those ones dry out, and I know that you're supposed to lubricate them. Yeah, that's true, but they go hard as a rock. So that's not going to work for me. Anyway, so yeah, if you liked it, subscribe, thumbs up, do whatever, make some comments, and hey, I'll see you on the next one. Righto, peace out.